Blessings, namaste, and love, everyone. I'm spiritualist, psychic, astrologer, and medium Ray Sette. Once again, I thank you for allowing me this opportunity to share with you my astrological and spiritual insights. And this time we are looking to the month of June 2021. We are already almost halfway through another unprecedented year, and we are in an eclipse season. Now, we begin June with a Mercury retrograde. Mercury has already begun its retrograde phase. It began its retrograde on May 29th at 6:35 p.m. It will remain retrograde until June 22nd at 6:01 p.m. And as I've touched upon in other videos, remember, we're not completely out of the retrograde phase until Mercury moves past the point at which it moved retrograde, and that will be on July 7th of this year. Now, as I've always inspired us to recognize, every astrological phenomena, even a Mercury retrograde, contains great power and potential when we understand how to work with the energy. It's all about working with the energies and tapping into the highest vibrational frequency of the alignments. Every alignment has a positive and a negative polarity, not necessarily bad or good, positive, negative, just as a battery has a positive and negative charge. Both are required so that it can function at its greatest potential. So when we allow ourselves to be aware of the positive potential, that's what we focus on. If we're continually focused on the negative potential of anything like a Mercury retrograde, that's what we will bring to form, and that's what we will experience. This Mercury retrograde is in the sign of Gemini, and one of the greatest opportunities of this specific Mercury retrograde, actually as well as the solar eclipse on June 10th, is to recognize the power of the spoken word. Remember, with our words, we cast spells. That's why vocabulary is referred to as spelling. We cast spells with our words. Our words contain great creative power. Through this Mercury retrograde phase, allow yourself to be aware of your own personal dynamic and how you craft those words, how you employ the energy of those words. It's an auspicious and opportunity, for there to be a congruency with the thoughts, the intentions, and the words. Remember, the creative process requires 3 steps: thought, word, and deed. The words are very powerful, so you employ this Mercury retrograde to allow yourself to become very aware of how you craft your words, and to what I learned a long time ago: say what you mean and mean what you say. A teacher taught me that when I first began my studies of metaphysics in the late 1980s, and to this day I'm very aware of how I craft my words, and to be very clear with meaning all that I say and stating what I mean. So there is a congruency with our thoughts, our words, the spoken word, and our actions. And when all of those elements are in alignment with one another, then 1, we recognize how we very much are the master of our destiny. And also 2, we bring to form what we truly desire. We create what we desire, and not necessarily miscreate something we may not necessarily desire. So as I said, this Mercury retrograde, we become very aware, even more aware, of the power of the spoken word. Now, on June 2nd, Venus moves into the sign of Cancer. Venus going into Cancer, it's not the best place for Cancer to be. It doesn't always feel at home in Cancer when we're not aware of how to tap into that energy. Venus represents art, creativity, art, music, the imagination. When Venus is in Cancer, it allows us to tap into the creative potential that stems from deep emotions. Remember, great, powerful, deep emotions fortify great art. So that's how we can make the most of this Venus through Cancer experience, especially if you're an artist or music. Allow yourself to feel very, very deeply, and allow yourself to transform those feelings into great art. You see how that works there? And on June 10th, we have our next eclipse. Now, we have a solar eclipse. It's on June 10th, and it's exact at 6:42 a.m. Now, remember, a solar eclipse is a new moon. And just as a new moon begins a lunar cycle from a month-to-month basis, yes, it does begin a month-to-month lunar cycle, but a solar eclipse begins a longer cycle of experience. Sometimes 3 months, sometimes 6 months, sometimes even many, many years. Whatever comes together at the time of a solar eclipse remains with us for a longer duration. This is why we are offered the opportunity before the eclipse event, specifically 3 months leading up to the solar eclipse. We're offered the opportunity to prepare ourselves for whatever is coming together at the time of the solar eclipse, and to also recognize what we need to break away from. Because if there's something around you that you do not choose to carry with you for a longer period of time, make sure you move away from it. You've cleared it away from you at the time of the solar eclipse. As I said, all that comes together at the solar eclipse remains with us for a longer period of time. Also, allow yourself to be abundantly aware of all thoughts, words, and deeds on the days before the solar eclipse, the day of the solar eclipse, and the day after the solar eclipse. Remember, all of that will stay with us for a longer period of time. We suggest to not pay bills on an eclipse, because remember, you don't want to continually be paying bills, so you don't want to do that on a solar eclipse. What we would suggest is putting money into a bank account. You see, because I'm sure many of us would like to be continually depositing money into our bank accounts. Also, too, if you are in the process of finding employment, use that solar eclipse energy to send out your resume. Begin a major venture at the time of a solar eclipse, a new business endeavor at the time of a solar eclipse. And remember, we are always offered the opportunity to prepare for that experience at least a few months in advance, specifically 3 months prior to that energy. As I said, it's the opportunity to prepare for what's coming together. Because remember, whatever comes together at the time will stay with us for a longer period of time. So we're offered an opportunity to become abundantly aware of what it is we would choose to contain with us for a longer period of time. And I'm going to reiterate and reinforce the element of the power of the spoken word at the time of the solar eclipse. Allow yourself to set that energy in motion, to really become very aware of that potential within yourself and know that power of your spoken word. Perhaps at that solar eclipse, set the intention of motion to be very dedicated to becoming very clear with your words and stating all that you desire and meaning what you state. And also, too, because the solar eclipse is in the sign of Gemini, all forms of communication are highlighted. So not only thoughts, words, writings. That Gemini solar eclipse, it's an auspicious opportunity to begin a significant writing project. Scripts, books, whatever that might be. Begin the experience at the time, formally begin the experience at the time of the solar eclipse. There's also a very strong influence from Neptune to that solar eclipse that will fortify profound and prolific writing creativity at the solar eclipse. Because of the alignment from Neptune, remember, I've touched upon this many times, sometimes Neptune can be tricky when we're not employing its energies properly. Remember, Neptune represents the spirit realm, the psychic faculties. Whenever Neptune is present, we need to be abundantly aware of remaining clear and grounded and going within. Remember, with Neptune, confusion will come from the outside world. Clarity comes from within. When we are quiet, when we quiet the mind, again, that Gemini element, quieting the mind. Although I've also emphasized many times that the element of the mind exists in all cells of the body, not necessarily specific to the organ of the brain. Cells contain memory, what we refer to as cellular memory. The cells have a frequency, and those frequencies vibrate based upon our thoughts and our intentions. All these things that I'm touching upon, which do require sometimes extensive explanation and research, I always suggest explore these the principles that I touch upon, just so you can have a greater understanding as to the dynamic of your being, especially the dynamic of your creative being through the process and the experience of thought, word, and deed. All of this is very much highlighted at this time of the solar eclipse. So if you're unfamiliar how to properly employ all that energy, become as familiar as you possibly can. I know we only have a few weeks before I'm creating this video to really just kind of gather all this information, but it's not impossible. As long as there's a clear intention set in motion at the time of the solar eclipse, you're good to go. We have a next astrological phenomena that I'd like to touch upon. Mars will move into the sign of Leo on June 11th at 9:34 a.m. Remember, Mars is the element of action and energy. Wherever Mars transits through the zodiac, it fuels those qualities. Mars in Leo is a powerful surge of creative energy. The creative dynamic becomes very amplified in the sign of Leo. Remember, Leo is the element that most represents creativity. So certainly through this time, for many of us, especially artists, musicians, creativity is surging. But also remember, creativity is not specific to only art and music. Creativity is multifaceted. Allow yourself to really recognize your own unique expression and demonstration of creativity always. And just notice as Mars goes into Leo how those fires of creativity are fueled. Now on June 14th, we have the second of 3 Saturn-Uranus alignments. Now, Saturn and Uranus are forming a 90-degree alignment with one another that will remain, that began in the earlier part of this year and will remain present throughout the year. Now, Uranus is the element that represents freedom. Saturn sometimes can create restrictions. The Saturn-Uranus square, which is a 90-degree angle, can represent an experience where our freedoms are being restricted, limited, oppressed. It's an opportunity to recognize that we are very much free beings, and that no thing in the outer world has any power over us, say the power that we give to it. Doesn't mean that we are given permission to go out and do whatever it is that we want. It's an opportunity to recognize the freedom that we were born with, that every one of us has the birthright of being very much a free being. The Saturn-Uranus experience can restrict expression, but it's also an opportunity to strengthen your expression and become very clear and convicted with your expressions, as always from a place of love. We've already seen how there have been many restrictions placed regarding censorship of the freedom of speech. However, remember, it's an opportunity for us to become very, very clear with our speech and our speaking, and to just know from that place of love that it is our birthright that we are very much free, born free beings. On June 20th at 11:06 a.m., Jupiter moves retrograde. Now, Jupiter, among many things, represents the higher mind, beliefs, and philosophies as Jupiter moves retrograde, and it will move direct in September. It's an opportunity to reflect on abstract beliefs and philosophies. And remember, whenever something moves direct, all that we've reflected upon during the retrograde becomes very, very clear. So the Jupiter retrograde, it's a time to go in and reflect on your beliefs, abstract beliefs, and your philosophies, spirituality. Perhaps it's an opportunity to reflect on your own personal spirituality in whatever form that might be. Also, on June 20th, we have the summer solstice. And the exact moment of the beginning of the summer season, the summer solstice, is June 20th at 11:33 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time. If I didn't mention it before, whenever I'm referring to specific times, I'm using Eastern Daylight Time. So again, 11:33 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time begins the summer season. When the sun moves through the sign of Cancer, Cancer, as we've said before, it represents our feelings, but it's also represents our home environment. When the sun transits the sign of Cancer, it's a great opportunity to really reflect on what's going on in your home, to create your home into a sanctuary. Remember, our homes really need to be peaceful places where we can go, retreat, rejuvenate, become very, very quiet, and feel very, very secure. Cancer also represents the sign of security. Remember, Cancer is represented by the crab, and that crab has that hard external shell that creates a very strong, stable environment. So within that shell, it feels very stable and secure. If you're not feeling those elements in your home, if your home is not feeling like it's your kingdom, your sanctuary, use this time, employ this time as an opportunity to create your home very much into a sanctuary. The moon actually is in the sign of Scorpio at the time that the sun transits into the sign of Cancer. So that is actually an opportunity to really recognize how whatever comes to form, whatever manifests in the home, is a reflection of the energy that all the occupants are bringing into the home. So this experience is an opportunity to recognize how you're perhaps very much energetically connected to your home. If there's any discordant energy that is perhaps demonstrating itself in your home, it's an opportunity to correct that, to recognize it, and to correct any discordant energies that may be taking place in your home. Cancer also represents our emotions and our emotional well-being. So certainly if there is discord with emotions, there will be discord in the home. Use the opportunity of the transit of the sun through Cancer to recognize, to become aware of that discordant energy and correct the imbalance. Remember, all these alignments, all the aspects, all the signs, the planets provide us with opportunities to really, one, recognize that we are creative beings, and that these alignments are tools for us to employ so that we can create a very peaceful, joyful, harmonious human experience that is certainly fulfilled or filled with love and balance. On June 25th, Neptune will move retrograde, and it will move direct in the fall. Neptune represents the spirit realm, the psychic faculties. The Neptune retrograde is an opportunity to recognize your own personal connections with the spirit realm, as well as your own intuitiveness, your own psychic sense, if you will. I've stated for many, many years that I don't consider my psychic abilities to really be a gift, quote unquote. I do believe that I tap into an ability that every one of us has the opportunity to employ. We really, it was intended by the spirit realm for us to work with spirits psychically. However, for whatever reason, we're not taught to recognize our own intuitiveness, our own feelings, our own psychic sensitivity. Neptune retrograde, it's an opportunity to reflect on your own personal, unique psychic abilities, if you will, and your connections with the spirit realm. Remember, our loved ones, especially our loved ones who have transitioned into the spirit realm, they're very present for all of us. We're always just not necessarily taught to be aware of how all of that really works, and the really how to recognize that our loved ones are with us. These are very personal, unique experiences. I always suggest to explore these connections with awareness. Remember, whenever we engage with the spirit realm, we have to be very aware of keeping ourselves peaceful, grounded, but also asking for protection against any negative interferences that may come through the ethers, so that we are not derailed in any sort of way. Remember, the element of protection, as well as keeping yourself, clearing yourself energetically from discordant energy that sometimes we build up in our aura field. One of the books that I have suggested for many, many years is the amazing material by author Diana Burney. The title of the book is Spiritual Clearings, that offer some very simple yet powerful techniques how to clear your own energy fields, how to clear the energy in your home, how to maintain being very energetically grounded and peaceful. The Neptune retrograde is actually a great opportunity to explore all those modalities and employ those tools for yourself, so that you can continue enjoying a very peaceful existence. Remember, in order for us to be very clear with what Spirit shares with us, we need to be clear and grounded within our being. Otherwise, confusion prevails, which is also a Neptune element. Remember, Neptune, when we deal with Neptune, we have to be very, very, very aware to recognize the clarity comes from within and not necessarily the outside world. The outside world will bring confusion. Going within, when we work with Neptune, that's where we receive the clarity. Neptune can present a fog of confusion, but also Neptune presents and brings about abundant clarity when we understand how to properly work with that energy. We're moving very, very quickly through yet another auspicious and unprecedented year, and every one of us will continue to receive opportunities to create many great things for ourselves. Recognize that you are the power, you are the master of your destiny. Recognize the power of the spoken words, and create all things always from a place of love. Remember, when we create from a place of love, these experiences not only bring blessings to other, but bring blessings, return the blessings to us 100-fold. So once again, I thank you for allowing me this opportunity to share with you just some of these astrological and spiritual insights for this coming month of June. Always remain in the light and forever in a place of love. Namaste and many blessings, everyone. I'll see you soon.